Hi guys, so I know it's a cliche to say, but I don't know how I've managed to acquire this many books in February. They just kept piling up. So I figured I needed to get this book haul out of the way to show you all these books, which all look incredibly exciting. So without further ado, I'll jump straight in. I'll start with the 3 books that I bought myself. I bought these when I was in Edinburgh with my friend Jill, as is standard of these hauls. The first one is The Crow Garden by Alison Littlewood. I need to take this sticker off. It was in 3 for 2, so me and Jill shared a 3 for 2 deal, as we often do in Blackwell's. And this was one of those books I'd never heard about before, but read the back and was like, well, I'm buying that because it's about women's hysteria. And I love, for some reason, historical fiction that deals with the treatment of hysteria and the whole just sort of like medical practice around women's hysteria and mental health during the sort of like 1800s and early 1900s, and that's what this one deals with. So it was an instant buy for me. It also sounds super intriguing and spooky. So it's about a young man who is, well, a mad doctor, what we would call like a mental health specialist now, but in the time period of the book, a mad doctor at this manor where the person in charge is obsessed with phrenology, which is sort of like the study of the shape of your head. It's not real, but it's that idea that like the shape of your head somehow affects your personality and your health and things like that. And this woman, Mrs. Victoria Harleston's husband, has accused her of hysteria and says he will pay any price to have her cured. But speaking to this woman, he discovers that there's something a lot more sinister has happened to her. It sounds like there's lots of mysteries and like sort of dark intrigue amidst a period of history that I find really interesting. We then have a book that you might have seen in my Femme Fatale readathon TBR, and that is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Addy. This is a fantasy novel, naturally. This one is in a world where our young prince, takes a new bride every night, and every morning he has that bride executed. Now, our protagonist is filled with rage over these events. She has seen so many people she knows and loves die at the hand of this young prince, so she volunteers to be his next bride with a plan for revenge in her mind, but everybody else is shocked that she would go forward with this because obviously everybody dies after spending one night with him, so it's following through that storyline. And then lastly, a new release that I hadn't heard about before but spotted on the bookshelf and was drawn to the cover, then the description sounded fabulous, so Jill and I both picked up copies of this, and this is The Beauty of the Wolf by Delaney, who I didn't know until after I bought this is actually Sally Gardner. So this is a pen name for Sally Gardner, who I have read books by before, her sort of young adult children's books I've read, and I didn't know that she wrote adult literature under a pen name, so I'm super excited all the more now to read this because I know I enjoy her writing. And this sounds inspired by Beauty and the Beast, but loosely. It's also set in Britain during the reign of Elizabeth I, so it's both like historical fiction that deals with that time period, which was perfect for Jill because she's super into that like kind of monarchy history of that time, but equally it was a fantasy story that sounded super intriguing, so I was all up for it. In contrast with your regular Beauty and the Beast retellings, however, our beauty character is male and our beast character is female. Plus, look at this cover. This is like my dream cover. I cannot wait to get to this. I then have one book I was given as a gift. My boyfriend gave me a copy of this for Valentine's Day, which I was not expecting. I didn't get him anything. But it's Vegan London, a guide to the capital's best cafes, restaurants and food stores. The idea being that we would have more places to go and eat, and we've actually been to a few of these. I've been to even more by myself and with other people. But we have actually been to a few, and now we've got loads of other places to check out, and it's so adorable, isn't it? And it is actually great because at the back, not only can you just peruse it, but the back has a map, so you can sort of look at the location that you're in and be like, oh, there's loads of like vegan, vegetarian places around there. Some of them are not entirely vegetarian or vegan, but have like a high quantity of vegan options. So I've had a good look through this so far, and I'm really excited to go to some of the places I hadn't heard about before. And then the rest of the books in this haul were all sent to me by the publishers for review, which I'm very grateful for. Some of these are books I have been highly anticipating, so I'll jump into those. So 3 books from Pan Macmillan, and the first one was one of my most anticipated releases of 2019, and yes, that is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi, who is a magic realism author I adore. And this book is inspired by sort of the popularity of gingerbread in fairy tales, and I believe in particular it has references to Hansel and Gretel. It's about a family that's made up of a single mother and her daughter, and this mother is from a country that nobody has ever heard of, and when she lived there she made this famous gingerbread. But now that she lives in London, people don't really see the fuss about this gingerbread except her daughter, who adores it, and her daughter is equally intrigued with learning more about this country that her mother supposedly came from, and this woman that she talks about a lot that was her best friend, and she wants to solve the mysteries behind this. But there are magical realism elements to it. I saw Emma review it over on her channel, Drinking by My Shelf. I'll link that down below, which made me even more excited, because apparently there's talking plant dolls, like dolls that are like half dolls, half plants that talk, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Sounds beautiful, and I know I love this author's writing because I have adored it in the past. But the other 2 books I was sent by Pan Macmillan are proofs, and this one's a young adult fantasy, and it's Enchantée by Gita Trellis. And this one is a fantasy novel set in 1700s Paris, which I haven't really read a fantasy novel in that setting before. And it's about a girl who is orphaned, and it's just her and her brother, and she's sort of surviving and taking care of her brother using the little bits of magic that she knows. However, then she gets it into her head to sort of go for something bigger and grander, and uses magic to disguise herself as like a wealthy like baroness and sort of infiltrate the rich elites of society, and I'm super intrigued to see where that goes. And then the other proof I have is Queer Intentions by Amelia Abraham, a personal journey through LGBTQ plus culture. This is a journalistic non-fiction book, but very personal to the author's experiences, looking at the history of struggles to and to fight for LGBTQ plus rights, what it's like being an LGBTQ plus person today in Western society, but remembering how we've got where we are and the struggles that we still need to face, I think, and just sort of like appreciating what those that came before us have gone through. It sounds really interesting. I'm always up for this kind of non-fiction, so I'm really looking forward to getting to it. I then have 2 books that were sent to me by Faber, and the first one is Freshwater by Akwaeke Amiza, and this just sounds so powerful and intriguing, and it's about a character who has multiple selves living inside the one body. It's very much based on the author's own experiences, from what I'm aware, who is also non-binary as well as having multiple selves. So she basically explores those facets of herself and her life in a fictional narrative, but I think heavily based on her own life. Our protagonist Ada has just started university, and it's about her coping with this new environment. She suffers an assault, I believe. I'm not sure what kind of assault, but that sort of like sets off a spiral of events in which her other selves sort of start to take over a little bit. So I'm really, really interested to read this. It sounds like nothing I've really read before, and I think I'm going to really enjoy it. I was then sent a copy of poetry by Faber, and that is Us by Zafar Kunyal, and I've heard really great things about this collection. I believe it's about sort of like nationality and place, and the different nationalities you share with your parents, and finding your home, and those are the kind of themes. For example, the blurb says, "Yeah, his territory extends much further afield than those of the past, through Kashmir, where his father was born and now lives, to the Midlands of his mother's birth, and further north to ancestors in Orkney, as well as through language, memory and time." So I'm just really keen to try this because I have heard this is a great poetry collection. From 535 Books, which is an imprint of Bonnier, I was then sent this non-fiction book which sounds really interesting, and this is Kill the Black One First, a memoir by Michael Fuller, and this is the memoir of the first ever black chief constable in English police, British police. I'm not sure how separate that is. I think in the UK, Britain's first black chief constable. So he was born to the Windrush generation. He eventually becomes a police officer, obviously, and it's about his experience as a black man in that time and in that field. I have to say, I never really saw myself as someone that would read a memoir by a police officer, but this actually sounds really, really important, and I have had it on good recommendation from people I trust, so I'm looking forward to reading it. Also non-fiction, I was sent by Profile Books, Marx, Capital and the Madness of Economic Reason by David Harvey. David Harvey is an economist who my mum really, really likes. I think one of his other books is called The Enigma of Capital, and she loves that book. She's always recommending it to me. So while I saw that he had a new book coming out, I thought I would really like to try this author, and naturally I would imagine his most recent book is more up to date with the current economic situation. This book specifically looks at Marx's work, Das Kapital, Capital, and I imagine looks at its relevance to modern economics, and just tries to explore it in a understandable fashion. And Marx is somebody that I have limited experience reading. I've read some things by him, like the Communist Manifesto, but I think this sounds like a really interesting way to access that work and take part in a more current discussion surrounding it, so I'm looking forward to this. I was sent A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, so this is not a new release, but this is a new edition of this book. It originally came out in, if I can find the page, 2013, so it's about 6 years old now, but Ruth Ozeki is an author I have been meaning to read for years. She's a book that I first heard about on BookTube, but back when I started, so I have been meaning to read her since 2013 and just still haven't done, and have never owned one of her books. So when I saw that they were reprinting this book in this lovely edition, I asked for a copy and they were kind enough to send it to me, so I'm really excited to read my first ever Ruth Ozeki. I hear amazing things about this book in particular. I imagine that's why it's been reprinted. And on the back it says, in the wake of a 2011 tsunami, Ruth discovers a Hello Kitty lunchbox washed up on the shore of her beach home in British Columbia. Within it lies a diary that expresses the hopes, heartbreaks and dreams of a young girl desperate for someone to understand her. Each turn of the page pulls Ruth deeper into the mysteries of Nao's life and forever changes her in a way neither could foresee. Naturally, I'm looking forward to all of these books, but it's just got to be said, doesn't it? I was then sent The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. This is a science fiction novel in another stunning dust jacketless hardback. I have to say, dust jacketless hardbacks like this with foiling and everything are my favourite book designs. So I heard really good things about Charlie Jane's other novel, although I haven't read it. So when I heard about this, I thought it sounded right up my alley. It says, January is a dying planet divided between a permanently frozen darkness on one side and blazing endless sunshine on the other. Life inside the cities is just as dangerous as the uninhabitable wastelands outside. Sophie, a student and reluctant revolutionary, is supposed to be dead after being exiled into the night, saved only by forming an unusual bond with an enigmatic beast who roam the ice. Sophie vows to stay hidden from the world, hoping she can heal. But fate has other plans, so I'm looking forward to this. We're almost at the end, don't worry. 2 more books are sent to me by publishers. The first one is The Proof, and that is Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a retelling of the Cinderella fairy tale, and we follow one of her evil stepsisters and the aftermath of what happens. So I think this is about what happens after Cinderella meets her prince and marries her prince. And it's about living in a world where beauty is prized above all else, and how this stepsister has other good qualities but nobody sees them because she's not as beautiful as her stepsister Cinderella, and through this she and her other sister lash out at Cinderella, and she has to deal with the way she's behaved towards her sister, who didn't necessarily deserve to be treated like that, just because others prefer her for her beauty. And I don't know, it sounds really interesting. It sounds like a really interesting take on the fairy tale, and something I'd really like to give a shot. And then lastly we have a retelling of the Arthurian legends, and that is Once and Future by 2 authors, Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. And I believe this is a science fiction book inspired by the Arthurian legends, in which the sword, Excalibur, continuously has new sort of chosen ones. So King Arthur was one of the people that was able to wield Excalibur, but over time different people are able to wield Excalibur, and we're now set in far future Earth, potentially in space. Yes, we're on a spaceship, and our young female protagonist is chosen by Excalibur, presumably to save people. So I think that sounds like a lot of fun. But those are all the books I have recently acquired. No mean amount, that's for certain. Loads of exciting titles. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have read or are interested in reading any of these books, please do leave your comments down below, and until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys.